Well, hi everybody, and welcome to IAG Trade Talk. I'm your host Andrew Scott, and we have here in the cab none other than Mr. Soo Kim of Bally's Corp. Chairman and CEO. Is it still Soo?
No, just chairman, not the CEO.
That's chairman, and I probably actually was going to ask you this last, but maybe I'll ask you first. Congratulations on the Standard General acquisition. So, what effect
Thank
does
you.
that have for you?
Well, look, I mean, we just were able to take our Standard General's ownership of Bally's up from about 20% to something more like 70%. It just is a indicator that I believe that the future is bright. And that's really, look, we were the lead shareholder before, we remained the lead shareholder, but we were just able to put our money where our mouth is and commit even more so to the future.
Well, that's great, and maybe if that has an impact on Star that we're going to talk about, we can talk about that a bit later. So the reason I got in touch with you again, and it's great to see you again. I presume, are you in Chicago at the moment, or you in
I'm
New York?
actually in, no, I'm in DC of all places.
Oh, you're in DC. I'll say hello to Donald for me.
Yes.
All right. So you guys, Bally's executives, including yourself, were reported to be in Australia. I think it was last week, having a bit of a look around Star, these Sydney, Brisbane, and Gold Coast properties. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was just we had been getting calls about potentially getting involved in the situation for quite some time now, about well over a year. I mean, again, really because of our experience and reputation, whenever there is a sort of like a troubled casino company, really, but we get calls, and look, we are in we're in a small group of people that don't mind running into the proverbial smoking building, and we're corporate firemen, and we try to preserve life and property, so look, Bally's itself is a collection now of 19 casinos, one of them which we built, or two of them now we've built, but everyone else we've acquired from others, and almost all of those acquisitions were divestitures and sales of properties that other people, ultimately didn't see opportunity in anymore. But we thought that there was opportunity. So yeah. So look, we are the firm that people call when there's an opportunity in gaming, and so look, we're not, Australia was historically not familiar to us, so we sort of found, after we got our deal closed just a couple of weeks ago, I felt like, all right, well, now I have a little time to look at opportunities on the other side of the world. So I went down with my president and our head of business development, and we just really, frankly, just want to just sort of see the assets in person. We haven't, it's one thing to look at the numbers and read the story from a desktop, again, from far away, and another thing entirely to walk the floor and kick the tires a little bit. So yeah, so we were able to see a number of the properties in Sydney and Brisbane and Gold Coast and Melbourne. So we made the most of a relatively short time there.
So it sounds like you had a chance to look at all three. A Star in Sydney, the former Jupiter's now Star in the Gold Coast, and the new Queen's Wharf project, which of course has got equity partners in the two Hong Kong companies. Well, look, what did you think? What did you think of the assets? And maybe I just ask you this right now rather than waiting and asking you later. How familiar are you with the Australian scene in terms of the distress that they've been going through? Obviously, I think it's very widely known that Star, as you mentioned, you're the company that people call when the stuff hits the fan. What did you think of the assets, and what do you think of the opportunity, if there is one?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I'll tell you, taking a step back, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised of how nice everything was. I mean, we looked at all for Star specifically, we looked at some of the Crown assets as well, and like the Star assets. I mean, there's a lot of asset. And obviously the Queen's Wharf property is just this massive development, and a huge step up from what was the Treasury building. The Gold Coast is an older property, but one again that's still the only one of its kind in the area. And look, we saw a lot of potential. Look, obviously there's a lot of bones, good bones in Star Sydney, and again, we're almost struggling to understand why it's been performing so poorly. So yeah, so I mean, I will tell you, our just look, we were just doing mystery shopping. We didn't call on management. It's we don't have a position in the name, but we just wanted to see the actual properties in person. So again, just to be able to visualize and really and really understand what we were, and give some context to the stories we're reading and the numbers that obviously are published publicly.
Sure. And obviously acquisitions can be done in a couple of ways. You can acquire the company or you can acquire the business. And there are three quite distinct geographically separated businesses there. So would your interest be in some of the business, all of the business, the company itself? How would you have you got to that stage yet?
Well, yeah, I think it's a little early. I think it's a little early yet, but I would just say that, in general, I think if it's worth doing it, I think it's worth doing completely. So I think we were just sort of asking ourselves the question: is it worth doing? And again, if so, I think it's most likely worth doing completely. Now, I'll also say that, look, I think that obviously we've been reading the reports even while we were there that there's interest in the individual properties, but I will say that I think in order to sort of I'm not sure that as you break them up, they would all necessarily, some would flourish and some would actually not flourish. So, look, I actually think that, there's not only, sort of a generalized thought process of, hey, if it's worth doing, let's do it big. But also I actually think that it's by keeping them together, it's more likely that they all continue to operate as casinos. So I think that is something that that's an observation that we made, getting out there.
And obviously, just continuing on that theme of the three separate properties of Star, they're all very different. So you've got obviously Star itself in Sydney, which opened in '94. Australia's biggest city, potentially probably could be Australia's most profitable casino, really being in the biggest city, although the new competition with Crown. Then you've got Brisbane, Queen's Wharf, obviously brand spanking new property that took over from Treasury. They've sold the Treasury building now. And then you've got that older property, the former Jupiter's, now Star Gold Coast, opened in '85, if I'm not mistaken. Although did go through quite a refurbishment a number of years ago. Do you have any comments on them individually in terms of an approach you might take?
Well, yeah, I think it's a little too soon to say. And look, I don't want to be presumptuous. I mean, really, we haven't talked to management. We haven't. We've had some conversations, informal conversation with some of the constituents involved, but I think it's still too early to talk about what how we would shape an approach, if at all. But that being said, look, again, we saw a lot of potential.
Okay, so Bally's, obviously you have an investment philosophy. You've been acquiring a lot. As you mentioned, the group's now got 19 casinos, which you built up over reasonably quick period of time, plus the interactive portion of the business as well.
Correct.
So you have a thriving business under the Bally's. You managed to get the Bally's name and put that together. Quite interesting what you've done. I mean, how does the Star opportunity match with Bally's investment philosophy, do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things about the situation that absolutely, rhymes with our experience set. I mean, I'll tell you that obviously we are one of the most regulated companies that there are in gaming. I mean, not only do we own 19 casinos across I think some 12 states in America, but so we're regulated obviously in Nevada and New Jersey, and have been for a long time now. But also, like, we actually have bought our first casino in the UK. Um, we have a large stake in a lottery company called Interlot. So look, gaming in all of its forms is something that we embrace as a good business, and so look, I don't, in terms of the ability to look at opportunities, and turn around physical casinos. I think that we obviously have a long track record of that. In terms of this particular situation, obviously, we also have read about all of the sort of the probity issues that have befallen the company in the past. And look, that's something where I feel very confident that we could add a lot of value to. Hey, can you hold on one second? I'm gonna let me cash out of this cab right here. Hold on.
No problem. Take your time. No, we can edit accordingly.
All right, I've left the cab. Okay, so as I was saying, I think it's an interesting. Maybe it's a siren calling me to the rocks here, But look, again, it's hard to find someone with more experience turning around casinos, because remember, we've done 19 casinos one at a time. So
Right.
and I would just modestly say that we've almost improved on we've actually improved on every one of the situations that we've inherited. That's on the operational perspective. Again, when it comes to probity issues, there's look, we would match our reputation on probity with anybody. And again, just the breadth of our operations in multiple jurisdictions, multiple countries. I mean, as you know, probably the closest analog to the Australian gaming is the UK Gaming Commission.
Yes,
And
exactly.
and we enjoy a great relationship with the UKGC. We just went through our review there, just like I don't say a month or two ago, and we were given a clean bill of health. No concerns, no fines, and I think that's in a world where a lot of people are having trouble right now. And so again, it speaks to again a unique perspective that we can bring, where if a situation is worried about, is concerned about integrity and probity, well, that we have in spades. We have that operational turnaround, and look, it's not lost upon us too that, like, it's interesting, as we're walking by Brisbane, which is like the third sort of large metropolitan area in Australia, and it's like the champion there. Look, the casino that we're building, the RFP that we won to build the only casino in the third largest city in America, Chicago, that project is very analogous to QBE. So I think that there are a lot of reasons as to why. Now it's interesting because part of it, we've been getting calls for some time from various bankers, consultants, like former managers, like people that we're in the space, and people are like, oh, you got to come down here, you got to look at this thing. And again, we just didn't have the time to do it until like we got our deal done a few weeks ago. And so I'm like, all right, let's go down to Australia. And so I brought my team down, and we again, I want to be very clear that we don't want to be presumptuous. We've not met the regulators. We haven't met the management team, but it was just to get a feel of what was going on there. And we like what we saw. I mean, I think that the market opportunity is great. I think that to build a business around the local population, we think is more than sufficient. Especially since I know historically the business was built around a lot of international, like, junket travel.
Yes.
That isn't coming back, right? So and then again, when it comes to probity, when it comes to being able to handle casinos of that scale. Remember, our Rhode Island property has over 4,000 gaming positions. So again, not many people have experience operating at that scale. No, we run, a state monopoly in Rhode Island, and we run a very large casino in the state, and the only one in the state. So again, there's so many analogs to our experience that are applicable to Star. But look, let me just tell you, in all, we are also very cognizant that that this is not, we haven't operated it, in Australia, and so there's a lot of learning that we need to do. Meeting all the constituents there, obviously, the government, the labor, the creditors, the equity holders, and there's just a lot that we need to do to make sure that before that we would actually get involved. But again, I walked away from that and being pleasantly surprised that there could be an opportunity there. Now, I was a little surprised that there was press coverage for us just doing a walking tour, but hey, I guess it's it is an important asset, and we would take care to recognize it as such.
Sure. Well, it looks like you're at Dulles there, about to go home, are you?
I'm actually at Reagan, but yes, exactly.
Oh, I was wondering whether it was Dulles or Reagan National.
Yeah.
Oh, be careful there after what happened recently.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's fine again now. And my family's actually from Brisbane originally, and that city, I'm actually in Australia at the moment, but I'm in Melbourne. But that city has grown out of sight. When I was a kid, it was well under 1 million people, and now it's nearly 3 million people there. It is quite a decent. It's as big as Melbourne was when I was a kid, so it's a decent thing. I wanted to ask you, Sue, in Australia, you've kind of got a good side and a bad side. The good side is Australians love to gamble. I think we've got the highest gambling per capita of any nation in the world.
I have read that. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, we certainly. There's a saying in Australia that we'll bet on 2 flies crawling up a wall. And that's good. And there are good, solid local markets. As you say, the junkets have gone away from the Australian properties now. They're good, solid local markets. So that's a good. But on the negative side, I guess there's been, and I'm sure you've read about it, as you mentioned, political, media, public interest. There's been a lot of negativity around the casino industry for the last, well, let's say from just before the pandemic. So you've got those two things weighing up. Are there any red flags there for you, or any serious areas of concern that maybe your compliance people have brought up? Anything like that?
Well, I think that look, we are cognizant that look, we've read the stories as well, and I understand that there were some serious probity issues in the past, and obviously there's been a series of reactions to those issues to address them. Look, what I would just say is it's too early for us to say whether or not the conditions are right for us to do a turnaround. I do think there is a very important conversation to be had with the regulators to make sure that we understand what they're trying to accomplish. Look, I am, when it comes to responsible gaming, when it comes to affordability, it comes to, responsibility, these are all, concepts that are very familiar to us, and we take very seriously as a company. Again, we took a small measure of pride that we just went through, the UKGC review that is giving so many of the operators fits right now with a clean bill of health. So I think I think it just shows that we care, and we can operate in a very competitive jurisdiction, but we can operate the right way. So look, what I would tell you is that I do think it's important for us to have a conversation ultimately with the stakeholders to make sure that we understand, like we have a sense, but that we truly understand what they're trying to accomplish. And again, we would not get involved if we felt like we could not deliver that. So
sure.
I see a lot of efforts to go that way. And what I would just say is, look, I think that hopefully I believe our interests would be absolutely aligned. and hopefully that there's a interest in doing in having a dialogue and ultimately helping fix the issues together.
Just
If
two
we
more
were to get
questions.
involved.
Just two more questions for you. So one of the things that some of the analysts have been talking about is with the reaction of the New South Wales government and other governments throughout Australia and regulators, that they've basically hobbled this company and it's no longer could possibly even be profitable. This is a point of view that's out there, may or may not
Yep.
be correct,
Yep.
but you know,
Yep.
profitability is a real issue because now with these restrictions, carded play, restrictions on cash play,
Yep.
enforced breaks, you name it, and could be even
Yep.
more to come. Could be outstanding liabilities still there in terms of
Sure.
fines or regulatory. I mean, any thoughts on those items?
Yeah. Look again. It's not. It's a small industry, and we are obviously are aware of the efforts of Blackstone with Crown, and so we understand that that there's a lot that can happen between now and then. Look,
Yep.
what I would tell you is that we are generally we embrace regulation, and we are we are generally aligned to the goals that people should game, that gaming should be fun, and and it shouldn't be harmful to your customers. Like any let me tell you, if you operate a business in a manner that's harmful to your customers, that's really not very long-term greedy, So I suspect, at least philosophically, we'll be aligned. Look, I just hope that I think one of the things that we would like to clear up before we get involved is just to see if there's a willingness to have a dialogue, because again, it's funny, we have observed a lot of the policy changes. I think we understand what the motivations are, but I would just say, well, maybe there's a better way to accomplish that, that's actually more effective, and yet still allows a business to be run in a way that's sustainable. Like obviously, for all the value for tourism, for all the value for revenues to the state, for all the values to the jobs that it creates, there should be a general interest in making a business sustainable, and I do believe that you have raised a lot of important questions. We've made the same observations, and again, I think you would have to sort that out before diving in with 2 feet.
It was quite interesting. Our managing editor, Ben Blaschke, had David Green and Peter Cohen, two very respected Australian former regulators, on for about a 45-minute video, I think about a week or two ago. I don't know if you saw that video or not, but I'll send you a link.
Please send me the link. Yeah, I have not sent it.
I will.
Please send me the link. Yes.
David's they're both highly respected, and David made the point that the New South Wales government may have a bit more appetite to flexibility and a new operator rather than an existing operator, because the existing operator is the one who's been naughty, so to speak, and it wouldn't be politically very good. That's an opportunity for you. Look, last question for you, then I'll let you get on the flight. We first talked a couple of years ago. Well, I guess it was 5 years ago now. Or even a little longer, with the Japan opportunity that you guys showed a little bit of interest in Japan at the time. Ultimately, that didn't come through. Well, you weren't the Lone Ranger there. It didn't come through for anybody except for MGM. Does this, and now you're interested in Star, or at least interested enough to hop on a plane and come down and have a bit of a first look, does this indicate that Bally's has, generally speaking, got an interest in the Asia Pacific region? You'd love to have a property here if it makes sense. I mean, this is obviously our home turf over here, notwithstanding our merger now with CDC, and I'm involved in the US as well. But as is IAG's home turf, we like your company. We'd love to see you over here. Is this something that it's in the back of your mind? We've got the UK, we've got the US. Let's do something in Asia Pacific.
For sure. I mean, look, we view gaming as a global business, and it's different everywhere, just like it's different in every state, by the way, in America.
Mm.
And again, we've been able to solve problems, in each of the properties that we've acquired, and on such a micro state by state level. Look, again, as I told you, we just bought our first property in Newcastle, UK. So our first property outside of the States, but obviously we run a very large online gaming operation in the UK, Spain, and Scandinavia. Look, we are already international. One thing that taking the company, quote unquote private, although technically we're still public, does is it lets us actually invest away in sort of like, I wouldn't say unconstrained, but maybe I would we were probably a little more sensitive to what our public shareholders were thinking. Now that it's just as far as what catches our own eye. Look, I think there's a lot of opportunity in Asia. Obviously, the growth rates are in Australia are just are much better than in the States. Look, there's some specific challenges that you raised, but I think that we're looking generally, and actually, for what it's worth, I stopped in Japan on the way back from Australia, and because I want to continue to check in on what are the opportunities there. So look, we will look at opportunities everywhere. For what it's worth, we have a large stake in a lottery company called Intralot that's based in Greece, a Greek public company. I'm actually on the board of that company as well. But we do business in the Asia Pacific region already. So Intralot actually has lottery contracts in Australia and New Zealand and Malaysia and Thailand and Taiwan, and so it's a region of the world that we already have some level of involvement in, and look, I'm very open to being more involved.
Well, we'd love to see you over here. Soo Kim, Chairman of Bally's, thanks so much for your time. And it's great that we've got such a relationship that I can grab you in the cab and at the airport. I really enjoyed speaking in this way.
I really thought I was going to do this call just on the call, but
no, we won't let you get away with that.
You on the Zoom call with me as I move around. As you can see, I live a peripatetic life. I need to be, you need to be where the opportunities are, and I'm always willing to see things in person. So it's I had a wonderful trip to Australia. It's an amazing, fantastic country. It's the second time I've been there, and again, but look, I want to be realistic. It's the second time I've been there, so it's if we would not be involved, we would not get involved if we didn't think we can help and we could succeed. So. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that the conditions will turn out right, but we continue to do the work. Japan also is an interesting market where, again, I think we didn't participate in the first round of bidding, but again, that's another one where, hey, the first round of bidding came and went. A bunch of people sort of didn't quite make it, and that's an opportunity. These are we like to go where other people have already gone and have already sort of said hey, there's nothing here. We just like giving a fresh set of eyes to when there are situations like that. So as you can see, we're happy to travel anywhere.
Well, in theory, there's still 2 licenses up for grabs in Japan from the first round.
Exactly.
Never mind the second round. So
exactly.
In theory, there's no reason why you couldn't be there. And, a company that twists and turns and differentiates itself and does things differently to others, that's what you have to be in this world, isn't it?
Well, that's who we are. Look, we've done that. But we started humbly with one casino in Rhode Island, and now we have, again, a large fleet. And again, each one with a different set of challenges and a different set of opportunity unlocking. And we've been able to do that while also bringing all our constituents together, which include our customers, obviously our investors, our creditors, our equity holder, fellow equity holders, but also, the important constituents of the regulators and labor. We've been able to balance the interests of all of these folks, and you have to, right? Because You can't just
Absolutely.
win by yourself. You have to win together to truly make it sustainable. Look, we believe that there is absolutely a casino business in Australia. How about that? You know, or there should
Okay.
be, and there could be, and you know, maybe the current one is underperforming expectations. I understand that, you know, that there is a lot of gaming there already. Obviously, there's a ton of pubs and clubs and machines distributed. There's large online sports betting and racing, but I think that there's opportunity here, and but it's let's see if we can't if the stars, moons, and the align and we press the go button. But look, we have the capacity, we have the management wherewithal. Obviously, we have the integrity and probity reputation. We have a global brand and a global presence, so we check off a lot of boxes. But let's see if the rest of it can line up.
Excellent. Thanks, sir. Have a great flight. Travel safe, and maybe I'll see you in the US. I'll be over there in May.
Please do. Thank you,
Will
Andrew.
do. Okay,
All right,
take
be
care.
well. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye. And thanks, everybody. That was Soo Kim, chairman of Bally's. Let's see if they end up with Star. Somebody's going to end up with it. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.